Hey guys, so I'm going to go over some data management situations in this tutorial. I started off by just making a couple of lines in Rhino. I'll bring them into Grasshopper. Okay, so I'm going to divide these, and I want to do this because I want to have a couple different sets of data that I can play around with. So given that these have a similar number of divisions, let's say 15 each, we should be able to connect those with a simple line. You can see here instantly one thing is not happening how we might think. The first point on this one is connecting to the last point on that one, and the last point on this one is connecting to the first point on this one. So you might think, actually the lines are drawn backwards. So there's a couple of different ways of fixing that. You can go into Rhino and say flip, and it'll flip that line around. Now this is the start or end, depending on which one's first or last, and same on the other one. And I'm going to flip that back around so I can show you how to do it in Grasshopper if that's the case. So you can do that with the points. You can do that with the curve. You can say flip a curve and do that. If you want to keep that curve like that for some other reason, you can also say reverse list. And reverse keeps the line in the same direction but reverse the order of the points. You can also do that without that component, just directly if you right click and say reverse on that one. So you actually don't need that component in this case. So now that we have them aligned, you can see they connect one to one. So I want to visualize the number of these points. I'm going to put a point list on these and a point list on these. You can't see it yet, but this will actually show us the numbers. We just need to make them a little bigger. So you can see actually this is the start of the line because that's the 0 and 0, and it goes to 15 over here. And one thing I want to be able to do is what happens if there's more points on one side. Okay, you can see there's some things happening. Everything connects. Let me turn it down a little bit. Everything connects the way you might think until it gets to 15. There's only 15 points on this side, but there's 18 points on that side. So what happens? These points have nothing to connect to, or they connect to the last point in this case. That may be what we want to do. That might not be what we want to do. So we can think of different ways of organizing the data to get what we want. We can do a shortest list. That'll take these 2 points and only connect up to the shortest list, and then anything after that won't connect. So it stops at 15, and these points don't connect into anything. We can also say do that, but don't connect the beginning, connect all the way to the end though. Or you can interpolate in between them, so every so often it'll skip one to try to even that out. You can also do a longest list. So we'll take these, and then do similar to what we had before, where it just repeats the last one. The other thing with this one that we can do is we have a little more control over it. So we can say, okay, repeat the first one instead. We can interpolate so it repeats one ever so often. We can wrap it to say, okay, once you get to the end, start at the beginning and start connecting to the other ones again. Or flip, so once you get to 15, start going backwards on this side as it connects. Another thing there is a cross-reference. So we have these two. Cross-reference will essentially connect every one to every other one, which may or may not be what you want depending on what you're trying to set up. But in that case, we have the same amount of data. Determining how we organize it is what this line actually connects. So I'm going to move on to another task. Say we want to just connect a specific line. Connect point 6 to point 10. You can get a list item here, and you can see this one already selects 0 because this is it's set on 0. But if we want 6, connect the 6th one. If I copy that down to 10. Then I can take this list and selectively pull out the ones that I want, so I can connect however I want. You might also say that maybe I want to connect them all in this sort of orientation where I have this sort of shift from 5 to 10. Well, if I shift the list, turn these off. If I shift the list, then I can take these points, and this one is taking this list and shifting it a certain number. So I'll put a slot on this one. I'll say 5. And I'll plug it in there. And what this does is if it's 0, it'll look just like we had before. And if it's shifted, we can actually shift that number from 5 to 10 like we had it before. Same thing applies at the end. What happens to these once it goes past 15? In this case, it wraps around to the start. You can put a switch on this to say, okay, don't do that, and it'll just repeat more of the last one. Or you can turn that off and it'll switch it around. Okay. Other things that we can do. We can use our list to selectively remove items that we want. So if we build our original list again, list of lines. Say we want to take out some. I'm going to take this back down so they're even. Say we want to take out every third one. Well, we can do what they call a cull. We can remove every third one by giving it sort of which place we want to take out. So we can shift that and do more or less. Every other one. There's also other sort of culling operations that you can do. You can do a cull index. That'll just take out one item out of that specific index. And you can plug in more to that if you want to. If you want to dig out these two. You can get a cull pattern. So in that case, you're defining that by a set of true-false values that repeats. So you can see that it has true-false values. When it's false, it culls them out. When it's true, it doesn't. So it goes false, false, culled, true, true, false, false, true, true. You can come in here and manage that collection. You can shift those around to say false, true, which will do every other one, sorry. You can add more to that, so it'll do a slightly different pattern. You can come in here and set a series of booleans that you can adjust. You can give it a set of ones and zeros if they're set as data, and it'll do that pattern as well. So you can also use that sort of patterning system to create that line structure. You can, instead of plugging this in, maybe we want to plug that into the points so that those lines, it's hard to tell, but it's skipping every other one over here. It's doing all the ones over that way. You can use that patterning system to create certain analysis in which you want to remove those. So if we have that original set, move these down a little further. We can say the length of the line. And I'm going to get the average just so I know about what that average of that line lengths are. So they're somewhere in the range of 17 units, whatever your units are set to. And so I can say if they're smaller than, if this length is smaller than that, then maybe I want to get rid of them. So I can use this pattern of true false values that comes from here. True, true, false, 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 false. So it'll build that pattern for me, so I don't have to create a specific pattern that repeats, but a pattern that just goes once. And so I can take these lines and remove them. Look at that. These are all the ones that are smaller than the average. If that makes any sense. And then if I wanted to do not greater than, but larger than, it would also do the same thing. Larger than, and I can get those out. I could also split the list. split list. So I've got this list of points, and then I want to say split it at a certain place. Turn these off. So this has a series of lines in one list, and a series of lines in another list. So you can see those turn green over there. You can see those turn green over there. So I can adjust where that list is splitting. So I think I'll stop there. That's sort of covering some information on dealing with lists. I'll clean up this sort of tutorial, but basically when we're using list and list data, we might need to pull out specific information or arrange that list in a certain way so that it can be useful later on in the script. So understanding how to work with lists and arrange that data, or pull out or align that data in the right organization to work with in different tasks is a very useful skill to learn.